everyone that this you like, but it doesn't necessarily in detail.
So you're not writing a memoir of your entire life. This is more like a story, just like a joke sort of has a punchline you're working to, and it's very lean. It's very it's not weighed down with too many details, as Sister Robbie said, that are extra details that don't relate to what the story really is. So you want a story has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And thinking of this plot, the beginning of the story introduces the character, introduces the setting, introduces maybe what the character is after.
It could be easy to select one thing or
Yeah.
one little incident or event that
Yeah.
can present whole.
Yeah, so your writing exercise now will be to think of an event in your life that represents, that sort of illustrates a theme that you have identified, and just start writing about it. That's really it. Just start writing about it.
That's
Yeah.
So the pre-work that you got, there was that timeline. We all saw that timeline. And you could either do the folding the paper in half and writing on one side and writing on the other, or you could use that timeline, right, and pick out major events or pillars in your life. And then one of the questions in the pre-work was, are there any themes that come out, right? So a theme in my life generationally is that, like, I see kind of broken promises, like, so that's like a theme, right? So what Chad is saying, pick one of those themes and extrapolate a story off of that theme.
And illustrate that. Use the events of your life as things you can pull in to show how that theme is working in your life. Like I'll share another example to make it concrete. For me, I moved around a lot growing up. I grew up not knowing who my father was, actually, and I had heard that he was from a Russian background. So this created an interest in Russian culture for me. And I also had an interest in identity because it, moving around a lot, your environment is changing a lot. You're constantly redefining yourself. So identity was a theme that I'm really interested in. So from the very beginning, I was drawn to wanting to understand Russian culture. From the very beginning, this character especially got my interest because he seemed like a character. He's an immigrant. He is displaced from the environment that formed him initially. He is searching for his identity in America. Who is he going to be in this new country? And somehow in that process, he fell through the cracks of the society, and the events of his life led him to this very low place. But I identified with him as a character because I saw themes that moved me because of my own story. So what I'm asking you to do is to think about some of the themes of your story. Like if it can help you just thinking of the events of your life, the themes will emerge by looking at the events of your life and thinking about how did I respond to those events. I mean, we all probably already know the themes that we are drawn to because you can't help but think about that after some time. So just narrow it down to one theme and think about the events of your life. Choose like one event because there's not much time, and just start writing about that. And just keep in mind that you want to. Everyone has their own process, so do it however you want. But just keep in mind that it has to have an end, and you may want to know where you're going before you start, just because of time. And like I said, we won't share these. This is just for you, and there's no way you're going to finish. This is just the start. So you're getting your toes wet in the water, and if you're interested in this, you can continue it on your own time. So I have paper if anyone would like scratch paper. So I'll let you.
Can you try?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Any other questions about the exercise?
That's great.
Yeah, please.
Because you are saying about the theme,
Yeah.
But the theme is not based on the basic plot that you.
No. I hesitated to even pass that out because I don't want you to be confused by it. This is something, that's a good question. The archetypes are something that you bring in later, after you've already explored the story. And you could use the archetype to test your story against and see if there are any holes in your story, or you can use it for inspiration, like maybe it'll make you remember something to include in your story.
I wonder if this slide would be helpful for
Yes.
them to see.
Thank you. Yes. So this, I just don't want to bog you down with too much information. These are questions I wanted to ask after you've started writing. But I'll keep them on the thing. If they help you, feel free to refer to them. So we're already like, there's really not much time for this, but we're just going to
That's
start.
okay. So just to recap, I know that this is confusing because story is so complex, right? But the pre-work that you did, the timeline, you're looking at the themes, right? You had to identify a few different themes that you saw throughout your life, right? That was one of the discussion questions. So you're just picking one theme and a story that represents that theme, and you're going to write it out, beginning, middle, end, right? And this sheet that he gave you is just types of stories. So your story that you pick might fit into one of these categories,
Or many of them.
or many of them, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So this is just a process. If this is too complicated, you don't have to look at that now.
These are ways to test what you've written to stimulate more thoughts after you start writing. Yeah.
If I have to make that story, more or less, what is your, how long would that be?
So that's a good question. This first exercise is a little more open-ended, but I would just say try to keep it to one very clear idea that you're trying to express. It's let's say a short story. Let's make it like no more than a few pages, written pages, you know. But really, my goal for you in this exercise is just to start getting you writing, because the idea that it has to have an end and it has to have parts, all of this comes after you start writing, because new ideas will come to you as you write, and I don't want to overcomplicate it. I'm struggling because I want to contain this so that it's very not overwhelming, but I also want to share what Flannery O'Connor says, is that a lot of times you don't know the end of the story until you start writing. And you don't know, even though it's your story, so you know where it ends, right? But you want to engage the viewer, they don't know where it ends. And you want to keep them guessing, you want to keep it dramatic, you want them to know what happens next in your story. So I would just say, just start writing whatever comes to your mind when you think about the theme. And then we'll have to cut you off anyway. Even if it were a short writing, you wouldn't have time anyway. So
Maybe 1 to 2 pages.
Yeah.
1 to 2 pages in length, and then we'll refine it as we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And I'm going to turn on some smooth jazz guitar.
thank you.
We will forego the Bollywood music we had yesterday.
Kristen, we're not going to turn this in, though, right?
No. Nope, this is just for you. So we're using this as an example. So
Can you just
right,
read me the slide so I know which slide we're on?
Oh,
Off of the
yes,
first-
it's
yeah.
slide number 24, Rehana. So basically this process is just a sampling, right? Because we're not going to have enough time for you to write your entire life story out. But basically what Chad has been detailing for you is how do you take one story, right, and build it out, right, with the beginning, middle, and end, according to maybe some of these themes, this process up here, And then later, you can take that process and do it for the rest of your life stories, right? And expand that out. So we're just practicing with a very kind of small snippet of your story.
The main goal is to activate your mind and practice. Just start writing and allow yourself to fail, allow yourself to just, no pressure. You just want to get in the process so that you can start thinking in terms of story.
Should it be an end?
You should have an idea where it's going to end. And because it's your own life story, you already know the ending. Or
Or maybe not.
or maybe not exactly. Exactly. It doesn't have to end like everything's tied up perfectly, because that's not the way life is, right? But your theme has, like I said, it has to have a beginning, middle, and end. It has to express itself fully, your theme, whether it's short or whether it's long. So your theme will really narrow what you write, because it'll help focus you.
So I'm gonna have music on in here for the people who need like energy in the background, but Yvonne went out to the library because she needs silence. This other room here is gonna